Bommity bum bum. Bommity bum bum. And we're live at Bammer the Bam, Bomber the Bum. I welcome Daniel
Hey.
to the show Bomber the Bum. Great to meet you. And you're now live from
Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn, New York. It's I think it's superhero place, the place where you're a DC fan, but where all the Marvel heroes were born.
Well, Captain America was, you'll go with the comics, Captain America was born here on Lower East Side of Manhattan. Spider-Man was over the border in Queens. All the actions in Manhattan, which is that way.
Wow.
North. So north and west. So it goes across the East River. So yeah, a lot of Marvel action happens in the pages in comics in New York. It's really funny. I'll walk around New York sometimes. Because my day job, a messenger / jack of all trades at a law firm, and it's like, so that's where this happens, and that's where that happens, and then I sometimes go past the Daily News building, and it's like, oh, Daily Planet from the Superman movie.
Oh, great! It is you live. Oh, and we've got the viewers. Dutch Gamer says hi and good evening, gentlemen, from the strip vlogger. So, and the strip vlogger is a very famous vlogger here in the Netherlands, and he talks about European comic books.
Yeah,
right. So it's hey, it's great to have you here because the Dutch publisher Reboot Comics are going to in April going to have an issue, a big issue from the American Dream. I've got the comic here. American Dream.
That's the Dutch translation of issue 1.
Yeah, right.
I believe the remastered one is going to be equivalent of English issues 1 through 3. I think.
Yeah. I can show you from now I've got a link from Reboot Comics, who is on their webpage. Yeah, I think this is one. This is the one. Yeah,
that's the one.
That's
see how many pages. Let's see how many pages it is on there. So it'll give me like a rough approximation.
Whoa, that's a very good question. Maybe you can. No, I don't see it here standing, but I
think it's roughly equivalent to issues 1 through 3 in English.
Yeah. I also think so. But here you have it. Yeah, but also I thought that I heard that the half of the complete collection is in part 1. So
right,
so
and issues 4 and 5
issues.
are going to be part 2, and I'm going to see if I can add some bonus material.
Oh,
it's going to be in the because we're doing volume 1 in English, the collected edition of volume 1 in English, hopefully this summer, and I have a couple shorts and a prologue, which I think I'll do as back matter for Dutch issue 2. I just need to talk to Leon about that.
Yeah, talk about
Leon. If you're watching, we need to talk.
Hey, and if you how did you met Leon Verhoeven?
My artist on American Dreams, Doty, connected me with him because he works with Leon on a couple books. Reboot, I think they just did at the Starling on Kickstarter.
Oh, on Kickstarter.
Hey, it's Fiddle 83. I know him because he and I are on the Jim Lee server.
Oh, right. Oh, great. I will do a chat overlay so we can see the chat. The new chat's coming here, just here beside us. And wow. Super tough comic, a super great comic, American Dreams.
I think he backed the issues 1 through 5 Kickstarter last year.
Oh wow! Hey, it's a great comic. I really must take all my roses to you and throw them to you because it's a great comic, American Dreams. I made a little vlog about it from another channel, Retro Smash, but it's really good, and I'm so happy. This is going to be combined into our to a real book, a
Mhm.
hardcover book, a soft cover book, but it's not as soft as a
Yeah,
comic.
yeah, because I'm so used to writing basically for, here in the States where it's, 22 to 24 pages
Yeah.
issue, and now it's like we're collecting it into European format.
Oh, great. This is also a great.
Yeah, I love that it's our
Oh
one of our
my
great images
God.
issue one.
What a good work, eh?
Donnie does masterful work.
All right. Hey, do you know the book? It's a very old book from Rich and oh, I just forgot the name. It's a very, very think and grow rich. Do you know that book?
Um,
Napoleon Hill.
it's pulling. Not really pulling them.
Now, to be honest, when I read your comic, I thought about a book, Think and Grow Rich, about Napoleon Hill, because all the industry men were coming along, and there was a researcher, a journalist, who really get deep into those people, and he was asking himself how does the people get so rich, and well, the book is a brief summary how the people get so rich. And when I saw all the very popular and great inventors who will see the light in this comic book,
Mhm.
I just thought about that book. So I thought maybe you get inspired by the book Think and Grow
I
Rich
was
from
more
Napoleon Hill.
inspired. I was more inspired by the book and musical Ragtime, which takes place around the same period. Actually,
Hmm.
has a couple of crossover. It has some of the same historical figures, but basically, it's okay. See, I thought basically what happened was I was listening to the score of the show Ragtime, mainly the symphonic suite, and I was going, "Huh, what happened if superheroes were around 1900 or so?" And that's when the
Yeah.
light went ding. So I immediately started
Okay.
writing that, and it's really fun because as great as these men were,
Yeah.
Morgan, Edison, they were in many ways also terrible, terrible people.
Yeah. Right. They were a little bit evil, I think.
Like Morgan, basically was the richest man in the world at the time, and he,
Yeah.
you know, well, he has a great museum here in New York, the Morgan Museum and Library. Which, he was not a very nice man. He was basically a ruthless businessman. And then you have Edison,
Yeah.
who took basically credit for everything his underlings did, including Tesla. And he was, again, a true businessman, brilliant inventor in his own right, just a very, very mean person.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, I think that's also with Elon Musk is also if you see him, I think he can be a world dominator. Eh?
Yeah, it's like Elon, you can do all these things, and yet you're doing it to go. You're using all your money to buy Twitter shares, so you can just
Yeah.
be a jerk on Twitter without
Yeah. Yeah.
punishment.
But I also must say I saw him a few years ago with by David Letterman. He was on the show, and he's got oh no, not by David Letterman, but the other talk show host with the glasses.
Colbert?
Colbert, yeah, he was at Stephen Colbert. It was a magnificent show, and Stephen Colbert said to Elon Musk, "From you really could be a Marvel villain." And but it was a very nice conversation between those two.
Yeah, Colbert's a
Yeah,
great interviewer. He's one of my favorite. He probably is my favorite late night host at the moment.
yeah, yeah, and but he's also a comic book lover, isn't
Oh, he
he?
loves. He's an utter nerd. He's just he's a Lord of the Rings nerd. He's a comic book nerd. He's a Dungeons and Dragons nerd. Like he does Critical Role crossovers for to raise charity money.
Yeah.
And and Joe Manganiello did an interview with him that was basically just Dungeons and Dragons. And there was a great gag where Colbert was basically he and Colbert doing a nerd off, and Colbert wins, and he goes, "You may be more attractive, but I'm nerdier than you'll ever be."
Oh, it's
But Joe
great.
Manganiello is in his own right a major nerd. So
Yeah, right.
yeah,
Hey, you're not 24-hour rider. It's not your day job.
no, my day job, I'm a messenger, jack of all trades, for a matrimonial law firm here in New York.
Yeah, but how did you become comic book writer?
So it's kind of this non-convoluted path. So basically, it starts basically winter 2010. I'm bored out of my mind. We just had a major snowstorm,
Yeah.
and I just got back into comics because I found some old books I had, and I finally found out about comicsology, so I could finally read comics more on the regular.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I'm like, you know what? I want to write a Superman screenplay, which I did. It's terrible. That led to a Batman screenplay, also
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
But that led to fan fiction, which led to fan scripting, which then to me scripting my own stuff. And then I was working with a friend to do our own comic. We were co-writing it, and one issue came out, self-published.
Yeah.
And then we went to one publisher, and while he was supposed to be working on the book with us, he turned to me and said, "Daniel, do you have any other books?" I put out the script for what was then called Modern Colossi, which became
Yeah.
American Dreams because the publisher at the time said the title text you have to change it.
Ah.
So then that publisher kind of fell through. So I went to another publisher, and through them I did release issues 1 through 3, and then as I was gearing up to do 4 and 5
Yeah.
together, that fell through
Yeah. Whoa.
for reasons that are complicated, and I'm not going to go into it. So I officially became Atlas Studios, and I just self-released it
Oh,
1 through 5.
wow.
So it's
So,
been a long process to get American Dreams 1 through 5 all out the
yeah.
door.
Oh, I can imagine. Because we now have got it in the Netherlands, but they are also, of course, in sale in the USA.
Mhm.
How many books do you know? How many are sold in your home country?
I don't know because I usually sell that more at conventions.
Yeah. Oh, right. Of course.
It's easier for you to do that than have a small, thing. Because I do have a website where I do sell digital copies,
Yeah.
and I am trying to sell physical copies eventually. It's just that I need to make sure I have enough in stock for
Yeah.
conventions,
Right.
as well as. So that's why right now I have the physical copies turned off
Yeah.
on the storefront. You can get them digitally.
Yeah.
I'll link that in the private chat.
Oh, great, great, great. Hey, and well, that's a good idea for Leon Verhoeven that you come next year to the Dutch Comic Con.
I could. I need to figure out if I can. Well, I have to see if I can afford it, and B, if I have to renew my passport. I haven't. My passport, what I was basically using just to get back and forth from school, because I went to school in Buffalo, which is right by the Canadian border, here in New York, but in New York State. So that's still like 8 hours away from me.
Yeah.
Um, but I could go to Canada because I had a passport. I could go across the border to visit like the little theme park area they have across Niagara Falls.
All right.
Um, but I let it expire a couple years ago, so I need to go back and renew it.
Ah, I can
It's a
imagine.
small process just to renew.
But maybe if Leon is going to sell those Reboot comics so very good, he can invite you to the Netherlands.
That would be great because I had a great uncle and a great aunt who lived in the Netherlands for a time because my great uncle was a military attaché to the
Oh,
court of the
yeah.
Netherlands.
Okay. Where was he stationed?
He was actually he was a military attaché actually to the royal court of the Netherlands.
Oh,
He was he was like the U.S. Army go-to for the Queen or King.
yeah.
I think it was a Queen in the 60s.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, we also got now a king. So
yeah,
since a few years ago,
yeah.
we got a king, and about a few decades, we shall have another queen again, because the masculine doesn't go really good in the royal family. I think
Well,
it's all girls.
I know your last two queens were really well loved. I think based on what little research I've done on the Netherlands and history, but my great uncle was a U.S. Army officer, and he was basically a kind of like a go-between between U.S. Armed Forces and the royal court.
Oh,
Yeah.
so
So when he died, I went to his funeral because he
yeah,
lived upstate. He lived like a couple hours north of here, and he had an Order of Orange medallion laid out as one of his honors that he had in life.
yeah, yeah. Oh, great. We've got a little reaction from the strip vlogger. It would definitely be cool if you could make it to Dutch Comic Con. Gives me a chance to interview you.
It'll
Yeah,
actually be
you've
fun.
got your first interview request from the
Yeah,
strip
I think
vlogger.
it'd be cool. I think I just need it's a question of logistics. It's like if I want to bring like English copies as well, because I don't know if I'll always have Dutch copies available for
Well,
Leon.
I really think that all the, of course, Dutch is great to read, but I think the real comic lover, we all buy English comic books.
Because it's also because kind of, English is kind of like the lingua franca, I guess, of the international
Yeah,
community in a weird
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
But
Yeah, if you look at the Dutch people, we all got educated by the American television series. Yeah, we grew up with the A Team, with the Knight Rider,
yeah,
with Magnum PI. So that's our life. All the cool series, all the cool movies, still they're coming from the States.
yeah, and it's like for some reason they don't educate languages as well here in the United States. Like I went to a good school, but they only taught like Spanish, French, and Latin, and I went with
Oh,
Latin.
yeah.
I went with the dead language.
But how many languages do you speak yourself?
Unfortunately, just the really well English.
English.
I
Yeah.
could read Hebrew somewhat. I just don't know if I could. I just don't know. I need the transliteration more than the Hebrew
Yeah.
because I need that
Ah,
for real when I go to synagogue and everything. But
yeah.
it's like I'm not fluent.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
like it's very halting. Like I can know enough to read it. I don't know enough to understand it.
All right. Well, I think that that's also very bold if you can read it.
Yeah.
Huh? We've got
I know some French, some Spanish, bits and pieces of other languages, but it's not like I will be able to hold a conversation in anything other than English, unfortunately.
no, 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 no. But I in American, of course, Spanish, Latin. That's common, I think.
Yeah.
Huh? We've got two questions, one remark. The Dutch Gamer says most Dutch readers prefer US comics, books, and movies and shows in English, and we hate dubbing into Dutch. That's really true. We never see. We've got the German neighbors, and if you go to Germany to a movie, let's say the new Spider-Man movie,
Mhm.
then you hear the Dutch dubbing, the German dubbing.
Mhm.
So, but we also in our cinemas you only have subtitles, so we hear the real
It's like
voices.
I like to call the Godzilla effect because it's like you watch an old Godzilla movie where something's overdubbed, where it's like the mouths are moving but the words don't line up.
Yeah, right, 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 right. So I must say, the German are masters in dubbing. Really, they're doing a very good job. They're doing it for so long time, but we just don't do it in the Netherlands. Now,
Yeah,
and
I
I
know.
think also we're too small country for something like that.
Yeah, because I know like when I watch like a movie or a TV show like on streaming, they'll say dubbing and then they'll list all the languages, but I don't think they often do it in Dutch. It's like usually
No,
the larger language groups like Spanish, French, German, Portuguese,
yeah.
um, Russian, Ukrainian.
Oh, maybe that's a good question for our viewers. If Daniel wants to watch our Dutch movie, a streaming movie, what do you what would you recommend to Daniel? So please let us know. I'm very curious. And the Stripvlogger has got a question. Daniel, are you familiar with European comics? If so, what do you think of them?
I know of some. I don't have that many at home, but I know like I have a collected edition. I think Inside Editions came out and I got it of Marini's Gypsy. The Franco.
Marini.
I know some of the Franco Italian comics. A
Yeah,
friend was sending me. I read digitally some copies of the Eagles of Rome.
yeah.
Um, and I know of Asterix,
Asterix, yeah, of course.
and I know of Tintin because they used to have the
Yeah,
Tintin cartoon on
yeah,
Cartoon Network when I was a little kid.
yeah.
And but it's not. I don't think there's as big a market for them, unfortunately, here in the United States.
No, no,
I
no.
like to read more because I really like to hold my. Because I really like Marini's art from like Gypsy and from his Batman book.
Yeah.
So I really like to, and because I'm an ancient history nut, I love to like have a physical copy of Eagles of Rome, but I only get them digitally here in the United States in English.
Oh, and do you also know Lucky Luke? Lucky Luke?
I think I've heard of
Lucky
it.
Luke, the
Oh, I
cowboy.
recently, yeah, I think I recently also got some. I got it on Kickstarter recently. Hold on, let me check.
Yeah,
Um, it was on a Kickstarter for like a Franco-Italian reprint in black and white recently of a Western. Hold on, I'm gonna see if I can find it in my all my old stuff. It's gonna take a while. Give me a second.
okay.
Because this was like
Uh,
one of those things where it's like, I know I've seen this. I know I have it in the house.
And where is it?
Uh,
Yeah, right. And I've got a reaction from a Dutch gamer. Let him watch Flodder. Did you ever heard of Flodder? The Dutch movie Flodder?
I've heard of Flubber. I've heard of Floater.
Flodder. I don't know, Dutch gamer, if you can watch it stream, because that would really be uh, a nice look at the Dutch culture, I think. Yeah.
I'm trying to find this thing. It's like I know I've seen this. Hold on. And I trying to think I have knocked down as received. Oh, that's been done. That's been done. Hold on, I'm trying to find it.
Yeah.
I know it was a western. It was recent. Recent. Hold on. Let's see if I can just do like a western. Cal. No, that's not it. There was this big hardcover. The time. I don't think it was. What was it? Blueberry is the name of the big one.
Blueberry. The
Yes, but it's not that one. It's. I don't think it's Lucky Luke. It's another like Franco-Italian one.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's like it's another thing that's going to drive me nuts until I find this. So give me a second.
Mr. Q is also in the house. You know him, I think.
Um,
Eric. Mr.
yeah, yeah,
Q.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's actually the translator on the book.
Yeah.
So I actually had to
And-
work with him with some of the I think to work out some of the idioms that don't translate well from English to Dutch.
yeah. Right. That's the job of Mr. Q, Eric. And I've got a question from Marvin Lancel for you.
Mhm.
What are, in your opinion, the best comic book writers?
Ooh, that's gonna be a tough one. I'm gonna ruffle. So
Yeah.
I like Scott Snyder. I like Tom King.
Hmm.
Kyle Higgins is good. Gail Simone I love. She's great, always funny.
Mhm.
What else? Tom Taylor. A lot of Toms.
I think your surname has got to be Tom if you want to be a
it's
comic book
like
writer.
it's like Tom, Tim, or Scott. Uh, but yeah, it's like there's a lot of writers I enjoy. Indie
Mhm.
wise, I also like Jared Lujan, who's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, there's a lot of great writers out there,
And and
and I
and
just can't narrow it down. That's part of the problem.
are there also writers who you really hate? Comic book writers? Do you think they don't ever don't ever work at that comic book again?
I don't think I've found one I've really hated.
No.
I mean, there's ones whose politics I dislike, and I won't go read them now because of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Which one?
uh, Unfortunately, Chuck Dixon, I think he's a great writer. He's just a horrible human being.
Oh.
Um,
Dan Slott. What do you think of Dan Slott?
Dan Slott, I like his work, but sometimes he's very like it has to be my way or the highway. He also can be a little combative online, unfortunately. Oh, and I
Yeah.
found the book. I was thinking of Tex, the Magnificent Outlaw.
Oh, right.
That was
Yeah,
recently released on Kickstarter.
I think Marv and I also we've got a common friend who really hates Dan Slott. He's really get angry if we just drop the name Dan Slott.
Yeah, I said, like I no, like he can be very combative and dogmatic on Twitter.
Yeah,
Like it has to be his way, or
the highway.
yeah. And I also don't like the fact he's constantly bashing DC anything over the
No.
head. Like it's kind of unprofessional, in my
Yeah.
opinion. It's like, yes, okay, you're a Marvel employee, but still maintain some level of professionalism to the other big of two company.
Yeah, of course, of course. And to be honestly, I really would love to have a Marvel DC crossover movie experience. How
I would
cool
love
would
it
that
too.
be?
Also like, because I have actually two trades I found randomly. Like one was at the
Yeah,
Strand bookstore used, and the other I found randomly at Midtown Comics of the Marvel DC crossovers, like the not like and I also have like a Batman Daredevil crossover in a box over here, but it's not
yeah,
like the big like Marvel versus DC crossovers. I didn't find one of those until a couple years ago. I was at I think it was Witherworld, Philadelphia. I was taking a break from my table, and
yeah.
I walked over and I was going through like the boxes. Like I literally pulled out Marvel versus DC in
Yeah.
trade for one written by Ron Mars.
Yeah.
And I'm like, sold. And they also
Yeah.
found
Right.
Camelot 3000 in the same box. So I'm like, in first edition. So I'm like, sold. Give it to me.
Yes. Yeah. Of course. Of course. Do you know the crossover Superman Spider-Man?
That's in the paperback. One of the paperbacks I have.
Yeah. Right. Right. Oh,
Yeah,
I really love that one. I
yeah.
mean, then two big heroes will unite, and it's great.
And what's really funny is that the convention center they go to in that book became the Time Warner Center, which for years was where DC had offices, and then DC
Yeah.
moved to the West Coast. So that's beside the point. And then they tore down that old convention center, put up Time Warner building, which is now called something else because Time Warner moved out of that and moved down to the Hudson Yards. Near the current convention center, which is the Javits Center.
We got a question here.
Yeah.
From the strip vlogger. Or did we have that one? Yeah. All right. I will show it because just it seems the US readers mainly like superheroes. I wonder why a comic like Asterix doesn't work in the United States.
I think it's
Do
more like
you've got an idea?
I think it's kind of a level of exposure, and also because I think comics in Europe are much more respected. I think in France they call it the fourth or fifth art,
Yeah.
and in the United States there's still this whole feeling of it's just disposable pulp.
Oh, right. Really?
Yeah, like you have to remember in the United States, comics was basically Jewish really got started by like mainly Jewish immigrants, but also
Yeah.
Italian and Irish and German and other immigrant groups was because they couldn't really find work anywhere else. They were being shut out of other jobs, so they ended up doing like comic book art in comics.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then it also didn't help that there was a whiff of criminality because some of these companies had connections to various criminal organizations. Like the two guys who ended up buying what became DC from its founder were not exactly kosher. They were Jewish,
Oh.
but not kosher, if you get my gist.
Yeah. Right. Right. I can imagine. Yeah. Right. Oh.
Um, and so because they came from the world of the pulps, so they wanted something to be a little more legitimate to the world of the comics. And hold on. And so because there's always like 10 cents for kids,
Yeah.
it wasn't really respected. But it's really funny is they talk about in this really great documentary that was on PBS called Superheroes, an American Story or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was a 3-part documentary series with Leah Schreiber as the host and narrator.
I saw it.
Yeah,
I
and
saw
they
the
talk about
documentary.
how one of the major magazines that basically outsold Time and Life and all that during World War II at various
Yeah.
soldier canteens during World War II was Superman.
Yeah. Right.
Superman was actually being used to combat soldier illiteracy
Yeah.
in World War
Yeah.
II.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately had the Wortham panic when Dr. Frederick Wortham basically called comic books a plague and this, that, and that also led to it. It hadn't quite recovered. I mean, it recovered somewhat, and then of course '90s crash also happened. So there's all these mitigating factors that
in the 50s, 60s, you had a code, a comic book code. I think it was a seal or a sign that was approved for
comic
children.
code because it's really funny because Wortham said, Wortham wanted basically comic books banned, so he was actually not a fan of the existence of comic code, which basically was the comic book publishers self-policing each other. But like by the 1970s, it was practically defunct.
Yeah, right.
Like, it kept going to like the 2000s, but really at that point, it was one woman, literally just doing the job and stamping the code of approval.
I think Deadpool wouldn't exist with the code.
Oh God, no! Like the code really did break down. So what happened to the code was DC wanted to do a book of Green Lantern, Green Arrow about Speedy becoming a heroin addict.
Yeah.
And the code people wouldn't allow it because at the time you said you can't show drugs, even to show it as a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
Then Marvel wanted to do the same thing because Marvel wanted to do something with Spider-Man because the FDA, or I believe, asked them to do a comic to combat drugs in the comic.
Yeah.
And they did it, and the comic code said, no, you can't do that. And Stan Lee said, we're going to release it anyway without the code stamp.
Yeah, right.
And then, as Neil Adams put it, 2 weeks later, all the heads of the companies came together, and the code basically was torn to bits to the point where it was effectively defunct.
Yeah, Stan Lee was a great guy, for the comic industry.
This is great. He's a character. I've met him a couple of times because he has his gallery on so it's not far from Brian Park. I'm pulling a blank on the address. I think it's 39th Street. But you
Okay.
can make an appointment. You can go up and check out his artwork on his office walls.
Wow. Yeah, and but who is now the new comic man? But because he's such a living it was a living statue. It was so big man Stan Lee for the comic industry. Who replaced that Phil?
That's a good question because I think Stan Lee is like is he's kind of irreplaceable. He was an idea man. He was a hype man.
Yeah,
Like to the degree of how well extent of his contribution were in the actual comics. He made contributions. We don't know the full extent because of Marvel method and Jack Kirby being also a big legend. It's hard to
yeah, it's
decide,
really
but
hard to. But
it's hard to fill that one big void because he was such a presence. But as Pity is
but
pointing out, there's Jim Lee,
yeah,
no relation.
but that's I think that's a little bit frustrating. I think for DC because Marvel had Stan Lee, but DC doesn't really got.
It was a culture, a business culture thing. Stanley was very good at tapping,
Yeah,
what was popular at the time, whereas DC was a more straight laced and business like. What's really funny though is DC was beating Marvel in sales also because DC controlled all of distribution. So that's another point at the
yeah,
time. The DC controlled most of the distribution. Um, that's why a lot of Marvel big books were like joint titles, like
yeah,
bigger,
right.
like 2-in-1 books. Because
The-
DC said DC Casey carved himself a little more of a monopoly. But like I think one of the reasons Fantastic Four was related is that the president of Marvel was golfing with the president of DC, and president of DC was posting how well Justice League was selling, and basically the president of Marvel stormed to Stanley and said, "Make me a Justice League," and lo and behold, Fantastic Four was born.
yeah, right, 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 right. Hey, and you are a very big DC fan. You're a very big Batman fan. You saw the new movie. What's your opinion about the
I
movie?
loved it. I actually got to see it a couple of days before general release because they had the early
Ah,
showing.
yeah,
It's like as soon as like 12 o'clock hit, I went to the AMC site, bought my ticket, I was ready to go,
yeah, right.
and I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it's a very different Batman story,
Well,
isn't
it's
it?
definitely it's because past Batman stories have been very bombastic action pieces.
Yeah,
This is more of a detective story.
yeah, right.
This is going back to like Long Halloween, year one a little bit, mostly Long Halloween, Dark Victory, which I
Yeah,
thought I think are two of the greatest Batman stories of all time.
yeah, yeah. But I think this is also the difference between the DNA of DC and Marvel. I thought you get it pointed out so very well in the movie because Marvel always got a little bit twist, a little bit humor, uh, a little bit enlightenment, and DC is always a little bit dark.
A little bit because there's humor to the Batman. There's some really funny dark jokes in there.
Dark jokes. That's exactly dark
Thumb
jokes.
drive, thumb drive.
Yeah, I know that one. Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
there's some humor in there. It's not like beating you over the head. There was some obviously when I was watching there were laughs at certain jokes because
no,
it's dark but it's funny. Whereas Marvel is a little more openness with
yeah, yeah,
the thing. Um, but it's a balance. It's a balance of. It also comes from their origins, whereas DC heroes are rooted a lot in
yeah,
pulps
right.
like the Shadow, the Phantom,
Yeah,
Zorro. Whereas the Marvel heroes came out of the Silver Age, Space Age, so different roots. Oh, and
the-
Leon's asking, "Where's AD?
what is AD?
American Dreams?"
Oh, American Dreams. Oh, you call it AD.
Yeah,
Here,
it's abbreviation.
here's the comic, and we also showed the internet page, Leon. So we did our work. No, it's really good. Um, if you're going to point out American Dreams, and let's say that an American director would say to you, there's going to be a movie. I'm very curious. Which director must direct American Dreams?
Ooh, that's a good one. 'Cause it's like one of those things where I know which director I don't want it to be. No. Um, I think the guy does good films. He's just not the director I want to do because his track record's hit and miss. He's too much of a
Yeah.
point. I think maybe it's like Steven Spielberg, personally.
Oh,
Jewish director
really?
about a Jewish
Yeah.
hero.
Yeah.
Yes, and
I can
Spielberg.
imagine about a historic way that seems Spielberg
Yes,
would be the man. Yeah. Right.
I think Spielberg would be great for it because I know he wants to do Blackhawks for DC.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it seems to be stuck in development hell because for the last few years, Spielberg's working on West Side Story.
Yeah. 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 Oh, Spielberg that really would be a fantastic director for this movie. And
Yeah.
I think Hans Zimmer for the soundtrack.
See, I have a love-hate relationship with Hans Zimmer.
Okay.
I don't like his more recent stuff. I feel so it sounds kind of one note. But I
Yeah.
love his like stuff when I was a kid, like Lion King and Prince of Egypt.
Yeah.
Those orchestra scores are great. I was thinking more like John Williams personally.
John
But
Williams. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Of
like
course.
'cause I know I have a guy,
Of
Charles
course,
Wolf, who
it's a
made it.
golden match with Steven Spielberg.
Because Williams and Spielberg have been a team for most of Spielberg's
Yeah.
films.
Yeah.
But like I have an artist, a composer named Charles Wolf, who did a mini soundtrack for the first 5 issues of American Dreams. And basically, my pitch to him was I wanted it to be like quasi John Williams.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
Like
It
I have
was-
a short list of composers. Like I've like, had Broadway composers in mind. I've had Williams in mind. Zimmer's somewhere on the list based on like my preference. I had laid Stephen Sondheim on my list because I'm a big Stephen Sondheim fan. But now he unfortunately passed last year just after Thanksgiving, so that's not going to work.
yeah. Leon, yeah, we already talked about the historic figures in the comic, Leon.
We got
Um,
Edison. We
yeah,
got Morgan. We got Harry Houdini, who's my favorite one to write.
yeah,
We have
yeah,
Aleister Crowley, who's our big series villain.
yeah.
So he'll show up in the Dutch version issue 1, because he's in 2 of those issues, just causing chaos.
Hey, for people who don't know American Dreams, what is the comic about?
Okay, it's 1900 New York City. A young Jewish, well, he's 19, a 19-year-old Jewish immigrant named Jake Gold. He's bless
Yeah,
you.
sorry.
Is basically he's a gang at night. He's working in a sweatshop by day, and he's trying to find his place in America in this turbulent Gilded Age era. And then one night, Thomas Edison flips a switch on a strange device in Central Park.
Yeah.
And a portal opens over New York City, and lightning strikes everywhere. Jake is one of the people hit by lightning,
Yeah.
and he gains superpowers, and has decided what he's going to do with them as a result. And a lot of historical figures come into play because Morgan is financing Edison. Houdini is the employer of Jake's sister and ultimately of Jake himself. Emma Goldman, the famous anarchist, is kind of always popping up, trying to moralize. Nellie Bly is also a great character, right? Is back reporting.
Wow.
So you have a great ensemble of both historical and fictional coming together.
It's really great. I really love it because I'm really a history fan. Um, and all those figures that are leading a role here in the comic, it's so inspiring. And I really thought you must be a sucker for the History Channel
I
or
am
something like
a
that.
huge history buff myself.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Do you also think, oh, now maybe a young Adolf Hitler, would that be?
Hitler didn't really come to power for another. Well, he didn't really show up in the real history records until I would say 1914, 1915, because of World War
Yeah,
One.
right. Yeah,
So,
right.
will there be a conflict ultimately between Jake and World War II Adolf Hitler? Who knows?
Who
I haven't
knows?
read that far. I've only read up so far in my head to 1901, so we'll
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
But there are future events. I'm also working on a present day story for Jake, so who knows? Maybe you'll find out eventually down the line.
Well, to be honestly, I saw the documentary at the History Channel at Disney Plus, and I saw Einstein. Did you ever saw that? Not the
Oh
documentary,
no,
of
I
the
haven't. That's
television
National
series.
Geographic. I think I haven't seen that series yet, but
Oh,
I don't know if Einstein would have showed. Would Einstein have been in the United States by then? I'm not sure.
yeah. I think he was in the late 19th century, so I
Yeah, but he could
think.
have been in Berlin at that point, not the United States.
Yeah, right.
He wasn't in the United States permanently until like the 30s. So
Yeah, right,
who
right.
knows? And this
Yeah,
is like this is 1900. This is literally the turn of the 20th century.
yeah, of
This
course.
is like March April 1900. So
Oh, this is, and maybe I also think this can be very inspiring also for the American kids who
mhm.
really learn about the American history. And it was a very, very everything changed that time.
Yeah, I mean, I take some liberties. Obviously, it's a work of fiction, so there are certain things I know have to remain permanently in the timeline. So there's going to be an event in 1901,
Yeah,
which is going to be a major event if I ever get to that far, and it's going to be the same event that happened here in our history.
yeah.
I allude to another incident issue in my issue two. Will be it's in the Dutch issue one, my American issue two. It alludes to the uh, shirtwaist factory fire in
Mm.
1903, 1904, I think,
Yeah.
which was until 9/11, one of the greatest losses of life in New York City history.
Oh, right. Oh, this I think that you've got so many material you can work with it's so smart to 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 really write about American history and just create the heroes around that history.
Basically, yeah, and also we have to figure out where certain people would have been either close to the United States. Because Aleister Crowley, we know, was in at least Mexico in 1900, so his story's a little twisted around what was in fiction.
Yeah.
We know Houdini at some point in 1900 goes on his grand European tour. We don't know if that'll be the case in this story, or
Oh.
if it would be or because of comics, his tour lasts all 3 months, not all of a year. So we don't know.
And what I also found fascinating by New York City, where you live, is it's also the birth in the late 19th century of a lot of religions. I know that Jehovah Witnesses were in 1870, I think.
Yeah,
Then you got the Mormon beliefs.
yeah, that was like
Uh,
late 1850s. Actually started in upstate New York.
yeah, yeah. So it's so all kind of cults and religion are around the time period.
Yep,
So there's something happened there.
it's probably one of those kind of. It's the turn of another century. What do we? What's next? And
Yeah,
but I think around 2000 we had a couple cults coming back up because of that. But like there's also Crowley in this story is leading a cult,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is kind of Aleister Crowley's deal. So
Maybe the people in the who are listening and watching can help me. The vrije metselarij. How do you call that in American? Um, there's also a group with the pyramid. They are very into pyramids, and they've got also when you walk. It's still happening here in Holland, in the Netherlands.
yeah.
It's also a cult group, but I think I don't know it.
Oh,
Yeah,
Freemasons. Oh yeah,
Freemason.
here's the thing. It's really funny if you look at American history. A lot of the founding fathers were Freemasons
Mhm.
by
I
by
think,
just by chance.
but
Like
also at the dollar bill, you also see a Freemason,
yes,
the
the
pyramid. Eh?
obverse of the Great Seal is the
Yeah,
unfinished pyramid.
yeah, yeah. People don't know that, but that's also so. I really think that the cult and religion really got into your society and really did something with it.
It's just weird. It's just by a weird chance that a lot of the founding fathers, like Washington, Franklin, Jefferson,
Yeah,
were all Freemasons. It's just
yeah,
one of those weird coincidences. But they were thinking more of the work's never done. We always work for a better country, and
yeah.
then there's always the assholes who are like, hey, what can we do for power? But you never can tell because for all I can tell, there's people who are Freemasons who are good ordinary people. There could just be some assholes in the back just being
Yeah.
assholes.
Do you know something about the Freemasons?
There was a documentary on Discovery, I think, several years ago, which demystified some of the stuff because Freemasons, even though they won't tell you all the secrets, have been making more of an effort to demystify some of the more regular
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
they're not going to tell you what the big secret is at rank 33 or whatever it is, but like they demystified like the kind of their play they do when they
Hmm.
induct new members to
Yeah,
talk about, for their mythos.
really ritual, is it? Eh?
It's very ritualistic,
Yeah.
but they demystified it. They did a little on the Discovery Channel. They showed it, and then they
Mm.
explained the situation through that stuff. And they also explained some of how the connections, as well as the people who took the whole fear of Freemasons and really kind of monetized it
Yeah.
to get power. There was like a whole anti-Masonic party in the United States for decades in the late early 19th century, early mid 19th century, and the Daily Show at one point did a textbook called America, the book, and there's a joke page about all the dead political parties,
Okay.
and on the gravestone, quote unquote, of the anti-Mason party is fine. Don't show us the handshake.
I really must say it's you live in such a uh, um, very interesting place. It's really a culture thing, and many things happened. I must say that from me, American is where you live. That is, I think, the most. That's the place where it really happens.
Mhm. It's like it's great because everyone uses the term melting pot to describe the United States, but I think it's more of a stew. It's like a bit of everything
Yeah, of
in
course.
a pot, and it all works together.
And
Maybe not politically, but as culturally, it all works.
yeah, how is now in America with the Republicans and the Democrats? Is it now
Well, the
a little
Democrats
bit?
are in power, which because I'm a Democrat, woo woo. But the
Yeah,
Republicans are being kind of stringent, and they're kind of being. I don't want. They're being kind of. Ugh, I don't want to go into it because they're being homophobic, transphobic.
yeah,
They're doing all the phobics.
yeah, yeah.
And they're just spouting off all this nonsense all the time, and I'm like, how does anyone believe this?
Now we really, as European, we really would watch Trump, and we really was one time in the period we really thought American could be the bad guys in the future.
We got close, I think, in my personal opinion. We
Yeah,
got kind of
yeah,
close. Here's the thing: everyone's like, "Oh, how did New York allow Trump to, run for office?" It's like we've known he's been an asshole for over 70 years. We've
yeah, right.
known his father was an asshole. He's an asshole. His kids are assholes. The
Yeah,
whole family is assholes from top to bottom. And we
yeah.
warned you, and you didn't listen.
Oh my God, really? What
And
do
it's
you
funny because he
think?
doesn't even live in New York anymore. He fled to Florida to Mar-a-Lago.
Do you think he's going to be reelected?
Oh God, I hope not. I mean,
No,
there's
but
always that fear,
yeah,
but he's at this point. I think he's just fundraising, saying, "Oh, I'm going to run for president again," just to make the money. I don't think he's actually going to run.
yeah, right, right. I think he's a little bit too old now.
There's technically, if he was elected, he would technically, I think, be the oldest person elected
Yeah,
or
yeah.
reelected. Because I think Joe Biden technically beat him by a year.
Yeah.
Um,
So
I like Biden. He may not be the best person, out there. Like he's not the person who's going to catch everyone by wildfire, but he's a decent human being.
yeah, yeah,
Which
yeah,
after
he
4 years
is.
of Trump, I'll take.
Yeah, right, right. No, I can imagine. I can imagine. No, but that's also in your comic book politics, history. That
Yeah.
are really thing. And then I thought to myself, this is also a comic book. Comic book are more for men than for women. Don't you agree?
Yes and no. Most books are geared towards men,
Yeah,
but a lot of the readership that is rising is women.
yeah,
There's a huge, like in the United States, there's a growing tide of women readers. And what's interesting, if you go back to like the Golden Age, it was nearly half and half men, boys and girls.
yeah,
But then over time, it became more separate. Superheroes were directed towards boys. Romance comics and comedy were more directed towards girls. It became
yeah.
a little stratified. Oh, this is for A, this is for B, kind of business decisions. But it ultimately doesn't make sense because superheroes are for everyone.
Yeah, right. But and that's also with the genre science fiction.
Yeah.
If that's also there are not that many if you compare it,
Yeah.
men versus women. Most men are into science fiction. Most women are not.
Oh, there's a
Why?
lot of women
Why,
who are
why
into
is that?
fantasy. I think it's many ways it's gatekeeping that's going
Yeah,
on because it's like it's like the old boy school, like old boys, group going, no, we don't want girls here. But there's
No.
plenty of female science fiction writers out there. They just need to go get the chance.
Yeah,
Like that's why
right.
there's a lot of female fantasy writers who've been breaking down the doors for years. But female science fiction writers and female comic writers are having a harder time for
Yeah.
some reason. And I think it's like it's gatekeeping for some reason. Fantasy, yay, you can come in. Sci-fi and superheroes, people just want to close the door. And I think no,
Close the door.
open
Yeah,
it,
right. Yeah,
open it.
open it. Of course. Hey, and how do you walk? And how do you think about the whole woke discussion in
Ugh.
superhero countries?
It's not like every time someone says the word woke, it's like I just have to roll my eyes. It's like it's the thing that Neil Gaiman once said. It's like common decency is just treating people with respect and dignity. So how dare people who say woke is like how dare respect and dignity go wild? It's like it's just becomes a right wing buzzword, unfortunately, at this point because
Yeah.
woke has just become a word for right wingers to say something I don't like.
Okay.
They're saying like Disney is woke, but it's like Disney is well. First of all, Disney's not woke; it's a corporation. It's the leasing of woke
Yeah.
there, and their CEO just really put his foot in his mouth by pissing off every employee there by not standing up to the governor of Florida. But now
Yeah.
that they are standing up to the governor of Florida, they're suddenly saying, "How dare Disney do this?" It's like you guys chose to be transphobic and do a whole grooming panic.
Yeah.
Ultimately, people who are decent people are going to stand up against this, this fear mongering and say no, and if that makes them woke, that makes a lot of people in this world woke.
Yeah.
So
Right.
so it just becomes a right wing smear at this point. It's like a buzzword. It's like means nothing at this point. It's like
Oh,
it's like how they use the word liberal as a smear word. It's like it's a great speech from The West Wing,
yeah. From the
where
television series West Wing.
from the show The
Yeah.
West Wing,
Show the West Wing.
where there's a debate between two political candidates, and the liberal and Democratic candidate is being pilloried as being a liberal, and he points out all the things liberals have done for this country
Yeah.
that have like emancipation of slavery, rights for women, rights for LGBTQ, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And these are good things that people take for granted. And without liberals, they wouldn't have done it. And Penny pointed out it might be a marketing thing. I don't think so. I think it's what happened is DC and Marvel is trying to open the gates
Yeah.
to audiences and groups that have long been ignored. And of course, there's every time there's a culture war going on, there's going to be the inevitable backlash.
Yeah.
So it's like
They want to.
less.
They want to increase also their market. So
No, yeah,
maybe.
exactly. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like, as I said, corporations aren't woke. They're trying to increase their market.
Yeah. Right.
But it's like it's also, I say it's kind of correcting a imbalance. They may
Mhm.
be overcorrecting in some people's minds.
Yeah. Right.
They
Right.
might be. They might be. I don't think so. But it's basically correcting an old wrong.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's too many people who think correcting that wrong it's wrong, which
Yeah.
is not right. So it's like, ugh. Everybody get that?
Yeah, right. But I really find it interesting because there's a discussion also here in the Netherlands about the wokeness of the world. But maybe it's the world is changing. Maybe that's where we're really sensing something that that the world is changing. That where the boundaries are gone going are we going to rethink maybe that's we're going to rethink things.
We're definitely like 60, 70 years after the civil rights movement was really big here in the United States. So it's probably cyclic.
Yeah.
This is the new civil rights era.
Hmm.
The right there of Black Lives Matter, of LGBTQ rights are unfortunately under attack again, which is
Yeah.
unfortunate. So now it's so it's another era of change, but also probably hopefully of progress. But like
Yeah.
another thing that's what I was going to point out: the people that say, "Oh, everything is woke," these are the same people who are supporting Vladimir Putin right now. So it's like, you really want to talk about things you should support?
Yeah, right, yeah. But your comic is just not woke, to be honestly. It's reading, it's fun to read.
Well,
It's
I consider it to be slightly political and woke in the sense that it's calling attention to some wrongs.
Yeah, right. Of course,
It's,
of
it's it
course.
may not be hammering people over the head with it like
No,
some writers unfortunately do, because sometimes you can't be subtle. It's,
no,
it's like sometimes you can be subtle, sometimes you cannot, and
no.
sometimes you just need to just take the sledgehammer and go get
Bomb.
the point. No, I try to be somewhat more subtle, but in other cases, like when Emma Goldman speaks, she's not being
Yeah,
subtle at all. But that's because Emma Goldman in reality was about as subtle as the metaphorical sledgehammer.
yeah, of
Um,
course.
but like notice like, well, Jake may be more middle of the road.
Hmm.
He does see injustices. He does see things that need to be corrected. That's societal. I'm just not going about it in a way that's overly preachy.
No,
I want
exactly.
to make sure people have a fun adventure story. I
Yeah,
mean, like this main, like this is more first runs more about. Well, none of the first two arcs are more about prejudice.
yeah,
There's a couple of new characters in the second arc, which is already being written right now, where it's going to be definitely more about prejudice against African Americans and other immigrant groups that are non-white.
yeah, right.
Um, this first arc dealing a lot with anti-Semitism as well as workers' rights, because you have the sweatshop fire in my issue 2 and issue 1
Yeah,
uh, of the Dutch version. So it's it's more subtle.
yeah. It's more subtle, very
Yeah,
subtle. But for me, it's a really fun to read, and I think we have to make sure that you're going to the Netherlands. So Leon really has to sell a lot of comics here in the Netherlands.
yeah. And then
So
I have to renew my passport, because I think how much is a flight to the Netherlands right now from JFK?
now you mustn't look today because the oil prices are really
Oh, I
increasing now
know. Yeah. Oh, I
during
know.
the
It's gonna
war.
be. It's not too bad. It's a direct flight's like 600. A direct flight round trip's like $600 in economy.
Oh, yeah, right.
It's not too
Uh,
bad. I've seen where's trying to get to Hawaii. Because I was thinking of doing like a con in Hawaii, and I'm like, how much would that be?
yeah, right.
No, no, no. That's like nearly $1,000 round trip.
It would be great to drink a beer. Are you more a beer or a whiskey guy? Do you drink alcohol?
I don't drink alcohol, but
No.
it's a health thing. I have a
Okay. Is it
condition, so
what do you prefer to drink?
I could like a ginger ale or
So if we're going
soda.
to toast, it's going to be with a ginger ale.
Yeah.
I put a little vodka in it, and we have a party.
Okay.
Here is I sent the link, the reboot shop, and people can pre-order the American Dreams Part One. It's a comic
Yeah.
about a fun comic to read with many historical people in it, and and how the hero was created is very original. I can't say anything else. It was
Yeah.
really a piece of work, and nice write work, of course, from you, but also the images are really. I will show it. There are
Cody did a wonderful job on the art.
wonderful. It's really wonderful. I will. Whoops! I will make something big, and the people can see it. It's really really good. And I've got here the comic issue, and the pre-order is yeah, the big album, the soft cover album with 3 issues. So this is 1 issue, and the album's got 3 issues in it. So it's really good. I must say that the back cover, I really prefer the back cover than for the front cover, and
Yeah.
maybe because this
Because
is more.
that's more
Uh,
of an interior page, so
I'm sorry.
that is an interior page versus because it's two different artists. Because the front cover is done by Netho Diaz, who's an artist on GI Joe,
Yeah.
and it was like a last minute. I had like a last minute cover we had to put in because my original cover had to be switched out. Long story.
Okay. Okay. But I really like this one. This is so beautiful cover. This.
Mhm.
Yeah. Right. Great.
And there's a new cover for the Dutch edition too. So
Oh, right. For
yeah,
the and this is from the American Dream. This is this one. Do you mean
on the reboot shop.
at the Reboot Shop? Yeah,
Yeah,
this one.
that was a new one done by Dodie.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. Great. Um, are there any questions left from the audience? Just
Before we go,
yeah.
I am doing a Kickstarter right now for another comic called Night Raft, which is a '90s inspired dark antihero
Oh,
book. I think
great.
we lost the link, so I'll just send it to you in the
Yeah,
thing.
right. If you send me the link, then I will put it also in a note. Yeah, thank you. Right. Yeah, and I will copy and paste it in the notes here. And this is also. Can you tell something about that?
It's basically it's a modern day story in comparison to American Dreams.
Yeah.
It's a man of like zero confidence in the world is kidnapped by mercenaries, experimented on, turned into that giant purple Hulk you see there, and now he's kind of figuring out how best to be an anti-hero slash superhero while kind of having this internal battle between his superheroic self and his normal self because superhero self very brash and confident, normal self very not. And it's another fun, action-packed, exciting book. And it's written by Gabe, and it's written by me, co-created with Gabe Santos, who is now doing that the art on that Wesley Snipes book that was just announced the other day. And inks are David Rivera, colors are is Daniel and letters are Francisco Zamora.
That's good. Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Now, I just forgot the switch of my mic. If I got it on right back again because I just
Mhm.
okay. Hey, great. This is I also I will put the Kickstarter also for you in the at visual. Uh, yeah, right. This
Yeah,
one, the new one.
yeah. It's what is this?
Yeah,
Supported.
Night Ward. Here it
Yeah.
is.
Yes.
All right.
That's the Fritz Cassis cover as our little promo image.
It's really beautiful. Also, a magnificent artwork, isn't it?
Yeah. And you scroll down, you can see like Gabe's artwork on the book too.
Great, great. Wow.
Including I think our
We-
first concept art. Like that's his cover. That's Gabe's cover.
Yeah. You're living your dream, I think, Daniel, at
I
this
am.
moment. Yeah, great. It's really great. Well, I really hope this also will be going published here in the Netherlands.
That would be, I think, plan. I think after we have the first arc done, I'll send everything to Leon for a
Yeah,
big enough European one-shot volume.
yeah, right. Oh, that would be great. Another hit explosion for Reboot Comics.
Yep.
Yeah, great, great. Um, the strip vlog. Another question, but it was a very interesting talk. I enjoyed the stream. Thank guys. Thank for your reaction. The strip vlogger, and Marvin saw that on Facebook, and PD83 said, "Awesome, Daniel, you are crushing it." I think I'm really agree with PD83 about this one. It's really a good work, nice work, and I really hope this is not the end because this is a continuous story, isn't it?
Yes,
American Dream?
issue 6 has been drawn. Well, American issue 6 has been drawn. American issue 7 has been written. It's just being going over by the editors right now.
Ah,
So,
great.
so hopefully, Dutch issue 1 is issues 1 through 3. Issue 2 for the Dutch will be 4 and 5, and some back matter I'll be having in the American trade. So I'll go talk to Leon about that. I think later, so he has more content to fill, and
Yeah,
I
of
could be
course.
because it'll be like because you don't want just like a 44-page book. You want at least, shall we say, 16 more pages.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm also forward. Hey, great. What are you? This is now also weekend for you. What are you going to do this weekend?
Well, I'm taking a play tomorrow at Lincoln Center. I got one more podcast tonight, and I got another podcast on Sunday.
Wow. So, but American podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, American. So this was your Dutch. This was your Dutch first one.
Yes, my Dutch debut.
No, it was great to have you here on the show from Bam de Bam.
Mhm.
And I really wish you success with your writing.
Thank you.
And I really like to follow more about American Dreams. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
And for all who was listening and watching, have a very nice weekend. And we'll be back with you with some vlogs. I think this weekend. So have a nice evening. Have a nice weekend.
Mhm.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys.